India's favorite sport is in cricket. It's pressuring children. Almost every Indian childhood has the same storyline. A kid scores 95% and instead of nice job, you work hard, the first reaction is why not 100? And the funniest part, no one actually cares about the 5 missing marks. They care about the neighbor's kid who scored 98. It's never about improving. It's always about someone else being ahead of you. A kid scores 75% and suddenly parents behave like something is wrong. Why are you not serious? Why can't you be like others? There's no conversation, just comparison. A kid scores 60% and immediately the house becomes a war room. Extra tuitions, schedules, anxiety, and lectures. The message is loud and clear. You're not allowed to be anything less than impressive. And a kid scores 30 to 40%, and that should be the moment when parents finally ask, what are you good at? What excites you? What do you want from life? But no, instead of self awareness, the solution is always more pressure. Because society doesn't care about your dreams, it cares about your performance and its reputation. Your life becomes a scorecard: marks, degree, job, marriage, kids, house. If you tick the boxes, you're acceptable. Do anything different, you're a problem. It's always what will people think, how will you survive, do what everyone else is doing, it's safer. And just like that, childhood becomes training, not for happiness, but for approval. Society has only two buttons for children: obey or disappoint. There's no third button called individual. The moment a child says, I want to take my own path, society takes it personally. Relatives teleport instantly. ये सब craze है, settle हो जाओ, don't embarrass us. And that last line exposes everything. Don't embarrass us, not yourself. Society cares more about its image than your life. And in all this noise, people forget an important truth. Education matters, but marks don't define a human being. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying stop studying and chase anything blindly. Education is important. Basic education gives you stability, knowledge, confidence, and opportunities. But your life cannot be defined by a number on a paper. If you're passionate about something else, you don't have to drop education to pursue it. You just need to be decent at both. Scoring 70% doesn't make you a failure. It's enough to get through life and enough to fuel your passion on the side. Study enough to stay educated and independent. But don't let studies steal away the life you actually want to live. You can be a good student and a dreamer. You can have a degree and a passion. You can study to survive and still build a life that makes you feel alive. Because the point of education is not to kill your dream. Is to support your future. But my story turned out differently. My parents never forced anything on me. They had dreams for me, yes, like every parent does, but they didn't use their dreams to control my life. They never treated me like a project they had to design. They treated me like a human being who had to discover himself. They gave me space to think, to explore, to question, to try, to make mistakes, to fail, and to learn. And that space didn't spoil me. That space formed me. I can think clearly today. I can make decisions without fear. I take risks. I live my life with clarity. Not because I followed the script. It's because I was allowed to write my own. There is one childhood memory that shaped me more than anything else. We were traveling on the road. I saw a huge street pole lying on the footpath. Like every curious kid, I asked my dad, can we live this? Without even thinking, he said, yes, we can. I looked at him and said, how? It's too big. I don't think I can. And he looked at me, calm, confident, no drama, and said something that stayed with me forever. If someone puts it on my shoulders, I can carry it too. I remember looking at him and saying, really, you think it's possible? And he said very casually, not like a lecture, just as a fact, in life, you can do anything you decide to do. If you really want something and you're ready to put in the effort, nothing can stop you. Just don't give up halfway. He didn't say it to inspire me. He said it because he really believed that about life. And from that moment, my inner questions change. Not, can I do it? But if I want to do it, how do I make it happen? That day is when inner strength entered my life. My dad gave me inner strength, but empathy didn't come naturally to me. I'll be honest, I wasn't always this emotionally aware. As a kid, I used to be a little reckless. I would do whatever I wanted without thinking about how others felt. Not because I was bad, just because I didn't understand emotions deeply. Then something changed, not through lectures, not through life advice, but because of my first pet dog, Misty. She taught me empathy in a way no human could. When you live with a dog, you start understanding emotions without words. They can't speak, but somehow they communicate everything. When they're scared, you feel it. When they're happy, you feel it. When they're hurt, you feel it. Misty made me understand something I never understood before. My actions affect someone else's feelings. That was the first time I truly saw the emotional world of others, and that opened the door for everything that came later. After that, when my mom spoke about kindness, compassion, and emotional intelligence, it started to make sense. It wasn't a sudden transformation. I didn't wake up one day and become a good person. It was slow, it was gradual, it was real, and over time, I became a better person. Not perfect, just better. More aware, more emotionally understanding, more human. And that happened because three things aligned in my childhood. My dad gave me inner strength, Misty taught me empathy, and my mom helped me grow that empathy into emotional maturity. That combination changed my life. Not marks, not control, not pressure, inner strength. People assume strict parenting creates discipline. But if you look closely at how human behavior develops, strict parenting mostly creates fear. And when a child grows up with fear, they don't learn responsibility. They learn obedience. They stop trusting their own decisions. They avoid risks. They stop thinking for themselves. They start living to impress others. They choose what is safe, not what is meaningful. And one day they wake up in a life they didn't choose. Freedom doesn't spoil children. Freedom makes them think. Freedom forces them to take responsibility. That's what creates maturity. And just to be clear, freedom doesn't mean careless parenting or do whatever you want. That's not freedom, that's detachment. Real freedom is we trust you, we are here, we will guide you, but you get to decide who you become. Because you don't teach a bird to fly by tying it to the nest. You teach it to fly by letting it take off while standing close. Not controlling it, not clipping its wings, not dragging it back, just being there as support, not authority. The sad part is, by the time you realize it, half your life is already gone. And I want to talk about something that hurts me. Not from ego, but from love. My friends, they're amazing people. They have dreams. They want to explore life. They want to take risks. They want happiness, growth, adventure, just like any human should. But most of them are stuck inside a life society designed for them. Not because they're weak, but because they were never allowed to write their own script. It's not that I'm better than them. In fact, in society's eyes, many of them are doing better than me. Some of them are more settled. Some of them have a stable job, a fixed income, and a socially approved lifestyle. Some of them are ticking every box society demands, be it marriage, job, house, responsibility. If society makes a scoreboard of life, a lot of them are ahead of me. I'm not richer than they are. I'm not more settled than they are. I'm not living the so-called perfect life the society advertises, but I'm happy. Not because my life is perfect, but because I'm living the life I chose. I chose my path, I chose my struggles, I chose my consequences, and because they're my choices, I can face anything that comes with them. I don't have regrets, not because everything is easy, but because everything is mine. I don't wake up for expectations, I wake up for myself. That's the difference. They're not lost, they're unfree. I'm not ahead of them, I'm just aligned with myself. And that's what I genuinely wish everyone had. Not money, not status, just the chance to live their own life. Imagine how many extraordinary lives the world loses because they were never allowed to grow into who they could have been. Psychology calls this social conditioning. When a child grows up constantly compared, judged, corrected, pressure, the brain learns fear before it learns identity. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being different, fear of disappointing others. And when fear stays long enough, the brain stops trusting itself. It becomes easier to follow instructions than to think, easier to fulfill expectations than to ask, what do I want from life? That's why most people don't lack talent. They lack permission to think for themselves. You're not born to be someone's approval project. You're born as you. But slowly, society turned you into what it needed you to be. The moment you stop living for yourself, society calls you responsible. The moment you start living for yourself, society calls you irresponsible. Not because you're wrong, but because you're uncontrollable. And that's exactly why this series exists. Not to attack parents, not to disrespect culture, not to create rebellion for the sake of rebellion, but to wake people up. Because you only get one life, and wasting it in fear, pressure, reputation, and expectations is the biggest tragedy. You weren't born with a label, you were born with a heartbeat. But the world decided your label before it even knew your name, your place, your category, your identity. And the first label society gives you, the one that divides people more than anything else in this country, even more than religion, is caste. Episode 2, The Birth Lottery You Never Chose. See you there.